Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of September 9th, 2025 to order with the adoption of the agenda to include these permissive tax exemption placemats in 8B. If someone will make a motion for me, please, Councillor, let me pick one. Councillor Terry, Councillor Palmer, you got to change his name to me. Thank you. All in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of August 12th. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Lucia, seconded by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to go on to announcements from the mayor. Just a few things I'd like to bring up today. So we are in the month of September. It is our aquatic center is shut down for the month for their rehabilitation and upgrades. So let everyone know, definitely it is closed until the end of the month. Also wanted to make people aware, I had announced about the Santa Parade. I'm working on bringing that back. That will now be December 13th, which is a Saturday. I will work with the community and fire department and staff on that. It is now back to school time. We see the children out on the streets, on the sidewalks. So just beware of little ones running out. So watch your speed limit in those areas. And also we've had a number of graffiti incidents here in the community in the last 2 weeks. Most of them are racist in nature, quite disturbing to me, definitely quite disturbing to members of our community. So if you see people doing graffiti, please report it. We hope to nip this in the bud because it's quite costly for merchants and for us as the city to rectify these things. Moving on to delegations and presentations, we have Ms. Bergeron. Lucy, you're here from Okanagan Regional Library for the staffing update and introduction. If you'd like to come up to the podium, Councillor Palmer is just doing that for you. And,
Thank you, Tim, because otherwise I would have been not knowing where to stand. Okay. Thank you so much for squeezing us in. I know we were a bit last minute. We'll be pretty quick. This is goodbye for me, at least in my role as community librarian. I'm retiring on, my last day will be the 19th of September. We're having a pirate party at the library and you're all invited. So please come and wear costumes. So with that in mind, I'd just like to introduce Katie Monroe. So Katie is going to be our new community librarian. I couldn't be happier. She is amazing. She's innovative. She's a good leader. She's, got a great eye for detail, but also the big picture. And she's very, very passionate about books and libraries. So any questions that you have about libraries, you can address them to her now. I also have my supervisor, Michelle Wellingham, here with me. So she is the Director of Public Services for the northern part of our library system, which is very big, as you know. Again, if you have any questions about library service in Revelstoke, Michelle's a great person to contact. I said I would be brief, but I am just going to leave you with this. You may have seen it in the news, but libraries are really hitting the wall. Funding has been, there has been no additional funding from the province for 15 plus years. It's frozen for libraries. And meanwhile, like all the services, like a lot of services are being put on libraries to support mental health, to support immigration, to support, it just never ends. At a certain point, libraries are going to hit the wall. I think it's going to happen soon. So if you value library service, and I know that you all do because you've been incredibly supportive of the library, keep an eye on things. And if you're concerned, please talk to Michelle or to Katie and protect your library services because I think it could be an issue going forward. At a certain point, You know, we have to give people raises, we have to buy books, we have to pay for our buildings. It's, you know, and municipalities carry the bulk of the funding for libraries. So with that in mind, and because I'm outgoing, I would like to thank you all so much. Revelstoke is amazing for supporting library services. I just can't tell you how every day we feel supported by the community and as well by council. So, yeah, thank you very much. I've had a lot of fun running the library for the past few years. So, yeah, and again, I hope you enjoy Katie. I know I do. She's a great coworker. I really love her. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for your service to our community and to libraries as a whole. We very much appreciate that and appreciate what you've done for our community. Are you staying in the community when you retire?
Absolutely.
Great.
And I may go on call at the library. I just don't want to be in charge.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to do the fun stuff, like pirate parties. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for what you've done, and Katie, welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're happy to have you on board. You've got some big shoes to fill.
I know.
Lucy. And,
She can
so
do it.
We're extremely excited for the future for you. And Michelle, if we have any complaints, we'll bring them. And then Councillor Palmer, I think, sits on the Regional Library Board. So, Councillor Palmer, you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls. Thank you, Lucy. Several years. We, of course, go back before my time on council here as being a pretty heavy library user. And yeah, big shoes to fill. And in some ways, not expected to fill because Lucy went over and above what was required. So additional services. So when we see things like the innovation lab and the whole saga with getting the expansion on the library, increased services, the community services that you do, even going back to when the heat dome was kind of became a crisis and we tried to figure it out. Well, the library just did it. They just did it. So come here. And in the work to Michelle, I think you've heard this in the past, but Revelstoke, every one of the branches in the library, the OL have their sort of unique things, but the number of international business people that actually work out of our library, and the ski bumps that actually are literary geniuses that hang out there. It's a busy place, and a lot of it's not representative of the population and the allocation. So now I just sort of mentioned that as something that's a little bit more unique. Every place has the little things, but Lucy has just done an amazing job and had an amazing team. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments from council? Lucy, again, thank you for what you have done.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it so much and we wish you all the best in the future.
Great.
Katie, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm
Look
excited.
forward to it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, council, we're going to move on to 8A, Public Infrastructure Committee meeting, underground 4th Street works. Mr. Black, before we delve into this, any comments?
No, your worship. No
Okay.
comment.
This is coming to us from the Infrastructure Committee, information that we received at that committee regarding some of the stuff being done. Does anyone council want to put this motion on the table? Councilor Cherry?
Move that the underground 4th Street works continue and the above ground works be deferred until BC Housing is ready to start their project.
Seconded from the motion, Councilor Luciano. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Number 2. Councilor Luciano?
The Public Infrastructure recommends to council that a program to revise the posted speed limits be initiated.
So seconded for the motion, please, Councilor Staphenhurst. Any further discussion on that?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Councilor Staphenhurst.
Yeah, just in regards to the posted speed limit, so I just wanted to verify with Director Black, through the chair, that we're looking at reducing the speed limits from 50 kilometers an hour on the arterials to 40 on the collectors, and if you could give us some examples of roadways that would be affected by those speed limits. And then the other issue / comment that I have, or question, is regarding pedestrian safety at the intersection of Victoria and Mackenzie. And maybe we can talk about, how do we implement a safer crossing for pedestrians at that crosswalk, as well as maybe just a kind of a brief overview of where we're at with the transportation master plan and the implementation of some of the recommendations in that. Sorry, that's a bit of a lot.
So there's resolutions on the table, so we'll discuss the speed limits and then you can just touch on the other briefly.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reduction of speed limit within the community is an item that has been identified in the Transportation Master Plan, which Council adopted in 2021, 2022. This is one component to make the community more pedestrian safe. Active transportation is a priority. The plan itself would, all the neighborhood roads, anything that's not an arterial or a collector, Douglas, Victoria, Fourth, Townley, roads that have a large volume of traffic would have a lesser reduced limit, the Councillor Stablehurst mentioned, and then 30 would be the rest of the community. And so that would be the goal, and with this council approval, we'll push forward with implementing it. It has been implemented in other communities, and I don't anticipate that it will be very difficult to achieve. We do not have any money set aside for this project at this time, but we will come forward with a budget for finance committee to consider. As far as Mackenzie, Victoria, many of you may be aware that one of our staff's children was hit in an accident there just recently. This has become a bigger and bigger issue, not only with that intersection, but all of the crosswalks on Victoria, all the way down to basically the Railroad Museum with RV vehicles parked, too many lanes, people can't see. In light of that, I've initiated a consultant to start looking at options for the community to consider as far as moving forward in the future to mitigate many of these issues. I think can be dealt with geometry, additional lighting, et cetera, but I have initiated a project to get that underway. We'll be kicking that off in the next week or so with our consultants, and over the winter we'll be working on a solution to implement for next year. That would be also unfunded at this time, but I think everybody, including myself, is very, very concerned with the amount of people that are trying to cross Victoria at any location, and we need to fix that as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you for that. So follow up, Councillor Stevens.
No, I do appreciate the taking the accident that happened at Victoria and Mackenzie so serious and being so prompt with the response and looking into that. That's greatly appreciated, and I think in terms of funding, you would almost think that this would be eligible for some sort of tourism funding because of the amount of RVs that we're seeing and the amount of use that we're seeing. I think generally what I would like to see is just a lower speed limit throughout the community. And what I've really wrestled with is how do we do that and not be all encompassing of all the neighborhoods. And yesterday as I was coming back in the evening, almost looking at doing almost a blanket policy implementation of reducing that speed limit, including Victoria Avenue, because I think, frankly, the speed limits that we're seeing in the community are just ridiculously high. And I think this is further evidence too by the letter that we've received that we'll see further on in the agenda. So that's my comment. I don't think I'm prepared to make any kind of motion right now to reduce the speed limit further, but it's definitely a concern of mine and it's on my radar.
Great, appreciate that. I think with the speed limits, what you've initiated, Mr. Block, is be commended. We need to look at that. We've been talking about that for a while. Moving that forward is really a good thing. Getting adherence to it is another. So those two go hand in hand, and where we will talk about how that can be achieved at another time. Any other comments from anyone regarding the motion on the table? Councilor Plum?
Thank you, Mayor Souls, and speaking to the motion, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Appreciate the infrastructure committee has put this forward. Overdue, obviously, that report done several years ago. So the motion is to initiate, and I'm wondering what does that mean? And the question that I would have, Mayor Souls, is when would we anticipate there would be actually, it's fully implemented, the signs is fully implemented, the bylaws change, what kind of timeframes could we be looking at?
So, Mr. Black, can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Thank you, Your Worship. The TMP, as you're aware, does document that this is an action that should be implemented as part of the adoption. Initiate will be the study that needs to go in to make sure that we sign it appropriately, advise the entry points into the community that this is happening, and where and how many signs are needed in order to achieve that goal. Much like in Whistler, as you are aware, you have various separate subdivisions with one or two entrances only, which makes it very easy to implement. We have a grid network, which makes it a little bit more challenging to implement. And so we'll have to do that first blush look at how we're going to make this look so that we can then anticipate what those costs will be. And if the money is available, I would also suspect that ICBC would be a partner in this too, if it reduces vehicle or incidents, accidents, injuries. They may be also a participant in this activity too. So we'll have to reach out to our partners and see if there's any other alternatives to funding this also. And so again, I think this will be a winter project with an opportunity to implement for next year.
Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm just going to repeat it as I'm understanding. So we're going to be engaging a consultant in the near future. Is that correct? And then based on that study, we probably would be based on the conversations on how does that get funded. So that would form part of the 2026 capital budget. Would that be accurate?
So capital budget?
I would suggest, Your Worship, to Councilor Palmer that that would be an amendment to the budget, as I'm not certain what that budget would look like at this point in time.
Okay. So just for clarity there, because I'm just trying to see how this actually gets implemented. So it's not in the 5-year financial plan currently, is that?
That's correct.
But we're looking at having this implemented in 2026. So so Mayor Souls, would it not form part of our budget discussions for the 2026 budget, which is starting?
Ms. Moore, do you want to make a comment on that?
Through the chair, yes, typically it would be brought forward during the 2026 budget discussions this fall to be included in the bylaw. If staff do not have adequate information yet to bring forward a budget request, that is something that we may need to regroup on, how we will this to council and ensure that it's included in the budget bylaw.
So through Chair, to Mayor Souls, and I guess my question is, do we have any idea of the order of magnitude? Is this a $10,000 project, $100,000 project, $1 million project? Even a range?
Mr. Black, go ahead.
I would guess around 100 grand for all the signage that would need to be replaced. And I think that would be a very conservative number.
So Mayor Souls, I would suggest, again, speaking to the motion on how this gets initiated, I think we're actually talking about that initiative word is how do we actually get this thing done? And so if all we have, the best we have right now is a round figure of $100,000, that should be in the budget for the budget discussions is what I would suggest. Thank you, Mayor
All
Sills.
right, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other comments on the motion on the table? Councilor Lynn?
Yeah, just if I may, a question through the chair for Director Black, the transportation mass, and the point is for people who are interested in this and want to find out a little bit more, the transportation master plan spells out which roads, the smaller pocket roads that would be subject to it, and also the arterial roads that would not be subject to the 30-kilometer-an-hour limit. My question is it likely that we are going to conform to that plan right there, or will there be revision? And the point is just for people who are wondering what's going to happen, whether it covers their road or not, what it looks like. Is there a document they can go find out more about?
Through your worship, Councilor Orlando, the TMP is a very broad plan. Each element of that plan, much like the multi-use paths that are outlined in there, each area needs to have a further refinement of that to make sure that we're accommodating the local issue, the local geometry, et cetera, et cetera. So in broad brush terms, the reduction of the speed limits is local roads, 40 for the bigger roads, and the bigger roads would be what would be defined as collector arterials. Anything that is mostly residential would likely be a 30K. This study that we do need to undertake to clearly define where each one of those segments is going to be needs to be completed in order to validate where these things go. So generally speaking, if the community is interested in looking at that, the rule of thumb is residential 30, commercial, industrial higher.
Great.
Follow
I know, just to that effect, looks like we're going to have to do some fine tuning, but if people are interested, community members, they can Google the Transportation Master Plan. It's shows up pretty easily, and it's sort of sketched out what the general idea is in that plan.
All right. Any other comments, Councilor?
Yeah, just one question. So this consultant work, Mayor Souls, as I understand, it's not been identified as an actual funding thing, but do we have a sense of what that's likely to cost, and have we identified where those funds will come from, since there isn't budget ones? And the final question on that, is there possibly an ICBC fund that would actually for the consulting phase of that to help fund that for the work that's being done in 2025?
Through your worship, Councilor Palmer. At this point in time, I have a budget of $13,000 to complete this study.
Okay.
That will come out of our engineering consulting fee budget. Should it be applied directly to that as a project gets created, then we'll move those funds from there into that specific project. But this is how I can initiate projects fast, get them underway, and get them implemented quickly. And so if the budget item was significant, that would not be the policy that we would follow. But because it's such a small number,
Right.
okay, good.
So it's basically is in the budget. It was just not identified as, but it's within your mandate. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Black. Moving on to 8B, Finance Committee meeting, permissive of tax exemptions. So, Council, you have these papers that Ms. Floyd has disseminated. Councilor Palmer had asked for the provincial statutory fees that are applied to taxes that the provincial government makes mandatory. So that's been provided to you. Any comments or questions prior to me asking for this to be put on the table? Councilor Palmer?
Yeah, I'm happy to make some comments before or after the motion's on the table. Probably be better after
Okay, do you want to put the motion on the table?
I'd rather somebody else do.
Okay, someone else want to put the motion on the table? Councilor Lucid.
Finance Committee recommends to council that the bylaw for the 2026 permissive tax exemption be prepared according to the following.
And there's a big list. Yeah. All right, seconder for that motion, please. I'll second it. Open for discussion. Council Palmer, do you want to start?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. So I'm just going to give kind of a high-level overview of the discussion from the Finance Committee
Sure.
as it applies to the motion that's on the table. So every year, municipalities have the opportunity to give to charities, churches, and under some provincial regulations to exempt taxes from certain properties. And that's what this list is. And they're permissive tax exemptions. We don't have to give the tax exemptions, but traditionally what happens in municipalities is it happens every year and just gets rolled over. From my understanding, this started decades ago. Basically, largely churches, charities, so that were providing essentially social services to the communities. In recognition of that, were given tax relief, substantial tax relief. And at some point, the province said, okay, these are the mandatory ones, and that's this list here. The dark green ones are the statutory. So these are the ones that are required under the provincial law. And it is virtually all churches that are within our community. I don't know if it has all of them in there, but they are, just a quick review, it looks like they're all churches.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a choice on those. But that doesn't mean it's the entire property. I don't know the criteria. But we, by virtue of this list, are giving those churches and a number of other charities, organizations, exemption from taxes that far exceeds what is actually required from the province. The total of the permissive tax exemptions is approaching $500,000 per year of tax relief that we give. And obviously, the tax base as a whole is basically subsidizing that, covering those taxes. It does come up in many communities, if not most communities, from time to time. There's a challenge, say, should we be actually giving these organizations tax exemptions? Or are they really kind of for a smaller group? Are they really giving a benefit to the entire community? Generally speaking, it's an area that politicians don't want to touch because there'll be backlash if we start to talk about not giving a tax exemption to a church, for example. The questions that came up in the Finance Committee last week, which reviewed this, was some that came up and saying, well, is there an active role that's happening? Because so now we're not talking about the statutory, those ones that we have to, but other areas where we're giving exemption, for example, properties that are unused. And there's a number of examples in here that there's that question. There was another one that just was raised this week saying that possibly one of the churches is no longer functioning. So that question as to should we be subsidizing an entity that actually isn't even active in the community? As a result of those questions in the Finance Committee, there is a policy review recommendation that'll go to the Governance Committee to look at how we're reviewing these applications. And one of the glaring, in my opinion, glaring omissions was that just through habit or over the years, there's a requirement or a request for an application But most of the organizations don't get around to actually doing that application.
Yes.
And so, and then it just rolls over year after year. Based on the finance committee, my understanding, and after somebody can correct me if I'm making any errors, that one of the challenges is we have a time frame where this has to be done. And if we choose not to give somebody a permissive tax exemption, this was new to me, that if we deny that, then they're no longer applicable in the future, if I'm understanding that correctly. And so,
Ms. Moore confirms that, Mr. Weatherall?
Not through the chair. It applies to the next year, so we're approving the 2026 permissive tax exemption. They could reapply next year
Oh,
and be back on the list if council approves it.
Oh, okay.
That kind of happened with the community partners for that one we discussed a couple of years back. It fell off, then we brought it
okay,
back.
so we can't bring it back.
We can't bring it back, it's just,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, it's for that next tax year.
Yeah, so through the.
Ms. Moore, comment?
Through the chair, I would like to clarify that should council change their mind during the year of 2026, you cannot retroactively exempt a property for that year. However, they could apply for 2027 as Mr. Weatherall.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's clear now, and I think that's helpful for that understanding. It's certainly helpful for me how I look at this. So we're kind of in this tight spot, and yet there's someone here that I definitely question, and have had some people from the public that have raised questions, and I think that happens pretty much every year. And so that's kind of the picture. I think that just the importance of the review and then what that criteria is moving ahead. I just wanted to put all that out because we had this discussion in the finance committee, but it's not well attended, or we don't have the video.
And now it's recorded.
And I just based on, the dollar figure and the fairness aspect, I anticipate this is going to get passed. I am probably going to vote against this, symbolic that there actually is a problem in looking at our financial responsibility. So unless somebody convinces me otherwise. Thank you, Mayor Souls.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? I think I'm supportive of this as it is, and the fact that we need to get moving on it for the budget deliberations. That doesn't mean that we can't have that conversation with our finance staff and bring up the particular entities that we're concerned about for the next year to make sure that we actually go through all of them and get right on board. And I agree that I think we need to do due diligence for the sake of our taxpayers to do that. So I'll ask if there are any more comments on the motion on the table. Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Councillor Palmer is opposed. Balance of council is in favor. This motion passes. We're going to move on now to flip my page here. To staff reports 11A heritage alteration permit. Mrs. Kovacs, I understand this is your file, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Do you have a brief overview before we start?
Yeah, I'm going to give council a brief overview. So what you have in front of you is a heritage alteration permit. This is for 714 Mackenzie Avenue. You had last year a heritage revitalization agreement come forward for the CPR Superintendent House. So this application is coming forward with a proposed carriage suite. This is for the caretaker's residence that's outlined in the heritage revitalization agreement. With this heritage permit, there's a few requests. So for the carriage suite, it's the form and character of the carriage suite that you're looking at, as well as 2 setback variances. So these are to allow the carriage suite to be located 2.15 meters in front of the principal dwelling, and then to reduce the minimum setback from the side lot line from 1.5 to 1.2 meters. And then there is a third request for an alteration to an approved building material. So this is to the carriage suite and also to the existing heritage house that is currently under or being restored. So if you go walk on Mackenzie Ave or 7th Street, you'll see the heritage house currently under restoration. So that building material is proposed to go from cedar shakes to hardy shakes. So it's a fiber cement material and the same color and same pattern as the cedar shakes. The applicant has included their photos, their proposal summary, and rationale for the material change. It's to the second story of the main heritage house, and then also the second story of the proposed carriage house. As well as staff have reviewed it, we've gone to site, they installed a sample of the hardy shakes, as it was hard to tell from the physical sample material that they provide us with at the Heritage Commission meeting. So we've gone to site and staff cannot distinguish the difference between the hardy shakes installed and cedar shakes. It was a pretty seamless replica. So staff are supportive of the hardy shakes in the second story only. It is wood on the main floor of the heritage house and wood on the main floor of the carriage suite. It has gone to the Heritage Commission. They're supportive of the proposal of the carriage suite and the heritage house material change. You'll see some photos in the report there for your review. And it's gone out for notification to landowners within 100 meters, and we've received no comments from anyone in the neighboring property. I understand that the applicant has been around the community and has shared their proposal with all their neighbors. So we have had no letters submitted at this time.
Great, thank you, Ms. Lomax. Council, someone want to put this on the agenda? Councilor Cherry, your committees?
Thank you. I move that the heritage alteration permit be issued at 714 Mackenzie Avenue
For change to.
for a change to building materials for the existing heritage house and the design of a new carriage suite that includes the following variances to the zoning bylaw number 2406. Accessory dwelling units, carriage suite, section 5.2.2 to allow the carriage suite to be located 2.15 meters in front of the principal dwelling. Section 2.2 to reduce the minimum setback for the carriage suite from the side lot line from 1.5 to 1.2 meters.
Second for the motion, please. Councilor Lucelle, any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Palmer, you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I'll be supportive of the motion. So just a clarification. So basically they got the heritage, I get lost in the terms, but the heritage, the right to do
Heritage
the,
validation
Yeah.
agreement.
yeah, a year ago. And so is this a little change that's come since then, or like, I'm just wondering why that wasn't actually part of that original application, or is it because they didn't know the materials at that point?
At that point in time, through the chair, the applicant was proposing cedar shakes, but when they came down to looking at maintenance, there is a maintenance plan with the house. They're looking at the longevity of the product, and they didn't think that they would be able to find something that was so similar to cedar shakes. So they've gone and found a whole bunch of different examples, and they're happy with one where I think it was proposed by their designer that it was a material that would weather a bit better than the cedar shakes, and then they could focus on just maintaining the bottom floor with the cedar or with the wood siding that's the horizontal siding.
Right.
So it's mainly a maintenance factor, and also that they're able to find a material that replicates so it was a change after the fact.
Right.
And the way to change a heritage alteration or a heritage revitalization agreement is by a heritage alteration.
Gotcha, right, okay, thank you. And specifically, I'm very supportive of that. In fact, we've actually encouraged those modern materials on a couple other reasons. One, those cedars are usually old growth trees, and we need to reduce our dependence on that. And then also from the whole fire smarting kind of thing, I'm sure the fire department would be much more delighted to have cement board rather than a fire starter for siding. The second question that I have is on the notification, so it's gone out. Does that include, there's an apartment complex, would it gone to all the owners in that apartment complex?
Yeah, it was within 100 meters of the property and went out to, I think it went out to the building itself. I don't think it went to every individual unit, but let me just double check the number.
It's a, through the chair, it's a strata building.
Yeah.
No, it did go to the whole building, because I think there was 300 that we mailed, so it would have included that.
The reason I'm asking the question is last year, after the fact, I had people complain of our approval at that time.
Right. So I believe it's gone to each individual domicile in that building.
And maybe just a final question, maybe to our director of planning, on that property, subject to things like the heritage aspects, that would be entitled to have up to 4 dwelling units. Is that accurate?
Mr.
As long as it met the other requirements.
Through Worship Council Palmer, that is correct. They would all require heritage alteration permits within that area and compliance with zoning bylaw, but they are entitled to up to 4 dwelling units per along that area.
Mrs. Kovacs.
Through your worship, it was sent to all the property owners, including Australia.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Chair.
Yeah, just in addition to the maintenance aspect of this change, it is very difficult or impossible to get a scissor lift or a boom on the one side of the house, which is another reason why they were making this application.
Right.
Yeah.
To get up
So
to the
once
second
it's
floor.
up, it's done. Yeah. Good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 11B, Highway Use Agreement, 501 2nd Street West. Mrs. Kovacs, is this your file as well?
Through the chair, no, it's Ms. Comar's.
Ms. Colmars, welcome back.
Thanks. Do you want to walk here?
All right, do you have a brief overview for us on that? Ms. Colmars?
This highway use agreement is something, an encroachment permit that the applicant will be entering in with the city. And it's to build an accessibility ramp to an existing building with an accessibility ramp cover over the ramp. And so it's a slight encroachment into Rokeby Avenue, just at that intersection at 2nd Street West. And this includes a development permit, which you're not going to be seeing because it's going to be held internally, as well as a development variance permit for the variances that are part of the lot coverage for the subject building. And I will be working with Director Black to get that highway use agreement to be signed between the city as well as the applicant themselves.
Great. All right, thank you for that. Does someone want to put the motion on the table for me, Councilor Palmer?
I move that the city enter into an encroachment agreement with the owner prior to the issuance of building permit BP 2025-072 to allow the following encroachments into the Rokeby Avenue right-of-way accessibility ramp to encroach plus or minus 0.37 meters, accessibility ramp roof to encroach plus or minus 0.46 meters.
And seconder for that, Councilor Usal. Any further discussion on that motion, Councilor Palmer?
I just have a question. So on the roof encroachment through the chair, so the way the roof was before, it would look like any shedding of the snow would have been going down predominantly on the property. Now it looks like it might, and I don't know, but it might go actually onto the city right away. So I'm just wondering if there's any issues, is that being, and if there is that dealt with at the development stage internally for the shedding? I'm just concerned about the potential risk onto the public property?
As part of this agreement, the development permit, frontage improvement is actually required by the transportation master plan. So in a permit that you're not seeing in front of you, a sidewalk is going to be built by the applicant, on the applicant, from Second Street West down Rookery to the rear of the building. And so the runoff from the snow shedding or from water, needs to be mitigated on the site itself, and that's something else that's part of the permit and has been brought into consideration from the engineering department.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Gilmars. Moving on to item 11C, change of address for McKinnon Road. Ms. Gilmars, is this your file as well?
Yes, it is my file.
Do you want to just give us a brief overview?
The requirement for these addressing changes are based on infill in the adjacent property. So the infill that's happening is 2 duplexes with party wall subdivisions with a suite each new residence that's being built. And so as part of this, the existing homes, which is a duplex, is required to be addressed in order to allow for this infill to take place. So we have issues with our addressing, and you've seen them come before you beforehand, where when the original addresses were made for certain neighborhoods in Revelstoke, the historical and impact of infill was taken into consideration. So this is an example of that. This original subdivision for this portion of Arrow Heights would have been done in 1975, and large gaps for addressing to be able to accommodate infill were not done at that time. So you have sometimes people that need to have their addresses re-addressed as part of that. Our current policy puts the onus on the owner for the readdressing to happen, which could be a recommendation for council to change in the future, but at that time, that's the way our current policy is written.
All right. So I want to put the motion on the table for me, Councilor Cherry.
I move that 1505 McKinnon Road be readdressed to 1501 McKinnon Road.
Okay. Second for the motion, please, Councilor Lucille. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Palmer?
Question, there's this thought that it could have been an and that, so we can do both of these because they're both directly related. But anyway, it seems like there was some concern raised on the numbering. I think it's just difficult to get it perfect. But I do have a question, Mayor Souls, to planning in general. So with the changes of allowing 4 units on the old R1 properties, you used to have 1, and that's what was anticipated for fill-in. And I think there was some reasonable back in the 60s and 70s how that might change in the future. Probably didn't anticipate the extent that we are at today. And there's a part of me that, when we start to look at potential stratification of the old R1 properties into four properties, you're going to have like 1501 A, B, C, and D. In a way, I think if we were starting from a clean slate, that you would actually allow a separate number for each one of those. Not really going anywhere particularly, but is there any sort of any initial thoughts on some of the challenges going ahead, and then how we do future subdivisions regarding address numbering?
Mr. Simon, do you want to take that, or Ms. Gilmore?
Well, with our current subdivisions, we're trying to build more space into our addressing to allow for infill development to happen. We didn't anticipate that the province would allow for 4 units per lot, but that's how the direction has gone. So with our current subdivisions, we try to give a larger buffer. You can see even within Revelstoke, as it got built out, some areas, some neighborhoods do have those larger buffers. Arrow Heights is a neighborhood that typically does not.
Your worship, if I may, this won't be the last time council is seeing this, as we see more infill development in the community, and development services staff and fire staff are also very adamant that ground-oriented dwellings each get their own individual actual address. Very important for emergency services purposes. So
Yeah.
this will not be the last time this happens.
So Mayor Souls, I think that's kind of my point on this, and because I'm not sure if it's the best use of council time to be looking at these, doing a report, and maybe is something that perhaps in view of that might be something that we could potentially delegate that if we're anticipating a bigger workload. So just an idea around that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Chair.
I think we should note that our policy was approved in 2000. So it is quite a dated policy.
Yeah.
And there has been comments around the table about addressing this. Maybe after the questions are called and this is flushed through, we should send the policy to the Finance Committee for review. Good staff recommendations.
Any other comments on this motion on the third? I know that on my personal property, in the past 40 years, the property number, every 40 or 50 years, property number has changed 3 times during that because of info. And back in the day, as you know, I'm an old guy. I live in an old neighborhood. It was single families that were doing info. So now that we're seeing this, one of the policies will be, or one of the dealing with the policy will be to confer with our fire service so that they're comfortable, as Mr. Simon has said, ground floor will have their own numbers, but to make sure that they're able to find a unit if they get called out in an emergency. I know that with my former commercial building downtown, it was great to have one number when it was only closed in one building, one business, and when that changed, it had to be numbered according to what fire service thought was appropriate. So I'll now call a question on this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 2. Councillor Palmer, do you have a question?
You want to do it? I can do it.
Yeah, I'll do this before the second naming one, just that the policy DS-12 street naming and addressing policy be reviewed by the governance committee.
Okay, second for that motion. Go ahead.
I'd like to second it. I'm wondering if Councillor Palmer would be interested in amendment to staff direction on this as well.
Staff.
With staff recommendations for changes as well.
I'm assuming that's inferred in the motion, but yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. You're seconding the motion? All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Go into governance committee. That's what we're doing? That's what the motion's on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, accept that.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Now, number 2.
I move that 1507 McKinnon Road be readdressed to 1503 McKinnon Road.
Second for the motion, please, Councilor Roussel. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11D, Strategic Priority Fund application. Do you have an overview, Mr. Black? Or do you want me to go to Garcia?
I can give a quick overview.
No, that.
Thank you.
I'm asking what your preference was.
Just take a real quick one. So there's a grant program out here, the Strategic Priorities Fund under the Canada Community Building Fund program, federal program. We're eligible for one project ourselves. We've chosen to utilize our application here to acquire the compost and garbage bins for the community as part of the becoming a Bear Smart community. That's the one application. The other application requires us to utilize a partnership with this Columbia Shuswap Regional District, as the city is only eligible for one application. The RD is eligible for 3 applications. They were only going to submit one. So we jumped in there and said, hey, let's do this together. The board has approved this application for us to work in partnership for the submittal, and that would be to create a septic receiving station, likely at one of our lift stations, preferably far away from the wastewater treatment plant, so that we minimize impacts of the septic to the lagoon system and our future upgraded system. This will benefit both the regional district, Area B, and the city. As you know, we have about 1/3 of our community is on septic systems, and right now we do not accept any septage, nor does the landfill here in Revelstoke. So this would be a big benefit for the RD and the city if we're successful. And on that note, I'm hopeful the council will provide guidance to us to provide a recommendation and this application.
Definitely, so RCA will send a letter to the CSRD. The chair of the CSRD had asked for a special meeting for a special vote that went out to the board last week. The vote was approved to join with this. As Mr. Black has said, we don't have septage in the CSRD. Provincial government shut that down a year ago. So having this is a benefit, and as Mr. Black stated, far away from the treatment plant helps break things down and will make it a great thing to have, and it will definitely be a bonus. So I'm going to ask council to be supportive of both these applications. I need someone to put the motion on the table for me. Councilor Lucero.
I move that a strategic priorities fund application led by the Columbia Block Regional District in partnership with the City of Revelstoke for a septic receiving station in the amount of $2.97 million be supported.
Second for the motion, Councilor Tippers. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item number 2, Councilor Lucero.
I move that an application to the Strategic Priorities Fund for the composting program project in the amount of $2.46 million be supported.
Councilor Stapleton is seconding. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Black. Thank you. Thanks for your work on this. Item number E, Columbia Basin Trust Community Readiness Grant Application. Chief DeRose, do you want to give some input on this?
Can certainly speak to it, Your Worship, if council would like, or I can simply take your questions.
Well, speak to it, and we're good.
Sure. So the Columbia Basin Trust Community Readiness Program is an initiative to boost emergency operations and response within the Columbia Basin itself. So how this came about, obviously we have a small EOC out at the airport, and I stress the word small. It is it's a great location, don't get me wrong. However, at the fire training center, we have a much larger building, and it supports a much more robust emergency operations center, a private area for the EOC director to have those private communications, which we don't have at the airport, a dedicated meeting room separate from the workstation area where the EOC functions are happening. So it's a little bit more functional, if you will. And so Columbia Basin Trust approached the city with an inquiry on this particular grant. And so we are in the process of putting the ducks in a row to get all the costs together to pick up our EOC at the airport and move it out to the fire training center. One of the advantages to having it on Powerhouse Road Training Center is it's on this side of the 4th Street Bridge. And I think that would be a lot more conducive to staff as well, because staff are the people who actually run the EOC.
Right.
And so that obviously would free up a little bit of space at the airport as well. We also do have a fire truck, our reserve pumper tender is out at the airport at that particular location and would stay there as well. So with council's blessing, we would like to move forward with this. And I'll thank you for your support.
Great. Any questions for Chief Rose?
Just a quick comment.
Yep, go ahead.
This is a no-brainer, so let's get on it.
Okay.
It's fantastic. This is opportunities come before us.
So do you want to put the motion on the table for me? Councilor Cherry, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, sure. I move that submissions for an application to the Columbia Basin Trust Community Readiness Program for relocation of the Revelstoke EOC to 1640 Powerhouse Road and make required improvements in the amount of $100,000 be authorized.
Councilor Lucero, you're going to second that. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Plummer?
Yeah, just a couple questions, a little bit of reticence. So I was here when the EOC was, the airport was instituted, and I think might have used the same funds going back some 15 years or so. And the philosophy at that point, things have changed. As the EOC generally would be at City Hall, and then that was sort of a secondary, so that, and a division between one side of the city and the other, and the problems with the divide. That's just some contextual information. Wondering about the Powerhouse Road, and I'm not looking for an answer right now, Mayor Solz. It's just a couple. So within proximity to the railway, is it a good place or not? I also wonder about the fire hall. There's quite a bit of real estate within there, whether that would actually be a good place from the EOC. Anyway, the bottom line is, what's our overall plan for emergency services in general? So to me, it's not quite a no-brainer because it seems a bit ad hoc-ish to me. It's probably a good decision. But those are just some of the comments that I have in there. I'm not really looking for any particular answers. I'll be in support of the motion.
Councillor Stichler?
Yeah, I'd share Councillor Palmer's concerns regarding the location at the Powerhouse Road, just given the fact, again, the proximity to the train tracks and the fact that it's at the very bottom of a very steep grade that CB Rail has to face. So, and then just the concern with derailments happening at the bottom of that grade. That being said, I think, I'm happy to see this move forward, and then again,
Good. All right, appreciate your comments. I'm supportive of this. Some of those things have been considered, but also appropriate to move it back into town. Any other comments? I'll ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to correspondence, Mr. Drabinsky had sent us a letter regarding some stop signs at Second and Mackenzie. Can I ask that to go to engineering to have a look at that? Councillor Palmer, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll just put a motion that it be referred to engineering for review, and that the council be advised of perspective of the outcome. Yes.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Stichler?
yeah, I was just gonna wonder if there's any appetite for a friendly amendment that I'd rather it be deferred to engineering than it go to Public Infrastructure Committee for maybe a more robust discussion, and perhaps there's other intersections that could be looked at for more four-way stop signs.
I'd be happy for friendly engineering and public infrastructure committee.
Okay, and you're seconding it. You're happy with that as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the motion will include both. Councillor Cherry, weigh in.
Thanks, Marcel. When this goes to the Public Infrastructure Committee, can Director Black please give an update with the traffic calming proposals for that intersection that I believe he's already worked on? I think I've seen it. There's a bunch of site changes that are planned to happen in that area.
And we can review, your worship, we can update the infrastructure committee with some updates to proposed improvements to the intersection itself for pedestrian safety also.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, in light of that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to communication. RAMP, Revelstoke Area Emergency Management Program minutes. Any comment from council on that? Is there any one of us that sits on that?
I don't sit on it, but I attended as a guest.
Okay, do you want to weigh in on?
I'd let the chief weigh in on that.
Okay, Chief Terose, any comment?
Your worship, there were a couple of things that went through. One of them notably was in response to the 4th Street Bridge impact last year. Was it last year or the year before? Emergency Services looked into the Kingsbury Memorial Bridge to determine whether or not specifically emergency services such as ambulance could traverse that bridge. So we looked to engineering to get some specs on that. Weight wise, yes, the bridge could handle an ambulance, police vehicles and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, size wide, they're just too wide for the bridge. So that turned out not to be a benefit there. We discussed the community readiness program for the relocation of the EOC to Powerhouse Road. Local weather plans were completed following reviewed by the Community Economic Development Department. The CEPF, or Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Emergency Operations Grant, was put forward with a number of exercise opportunities and some training plans for this and next year. So that has also been put through. Again, Columbia Basin Trust, a completely separate grant than the one I just spoke to. Emergency grant opportunity. So we have received that. I believe it's up to $50,000. It's a shared one between Revelstoke and Golden for a total of $100,000. We're going to be doing some emergency exercises. I believe we're doing a wildfire exercise. And upgrading some of the furniture at the current EOC with that. And also there was discussion held on the Interior Health Authority with a joint exercise to be organized in 2026.
Perfect.
Also participate in Indigenous engagement. And I think that's all I have comments on.
Good, thank you. Any comments from council? Seeing none, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Heritage Advisory Commission, any comments, Councilor Chair?
Thanks, Marcel. We've already spoke about the heritage alteration permit, so I'll skip that aspect of it. The next item of discussion, the commission members created a list of renovation aspects that are not currently covered under the HCA guidelines. Further discussions will entail in the future. Items such as skylights, exterior covered areas, cladding that mimics traditional window proportions, vegetation, and heritage design removal during construction. These are items that they would like to flush out and hopefully move back in front of council with some recommendations.
Great, appreciate that. Any comments from council? Councilor Palmer?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls, through to Councilor Cherry on the update. I've got noted, so I like that list that they had there to review that in context of the heritage procedures bylaw. And note with the vegetation trees, I'm trying to remember if we had a resolution, it was the discussion on protection of tree bylaw. Do we have any history? And I see Councilor Cherry looks like he knows everything.
I won't comment on a tree bylaw, but we have deemed certain trees as heritage. So if a owner was to remove one, they'd have to replant a mature tree of the same type and species.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So anyway, it's just a question. Maybe it's out of place of this particular report, but that and maybe afterwards somebody can remind me where the tree bylaw, or if it's needs to still be forward. I believe we had the planner might know something.
Mr. Simon, any comment?
Through your worship to Councilor Palmer with respect to a tree bylaw, there's not one that's in the immediate work plan. It might come down the pipe in years, but there's a lot of trade-off considerations that we need to.
Okay, and that's the same answer every time I bring it up. Yeah. Okay.
Mrs. Kovacs?
Yeah, I think it was brought up when you brought the heritage management plan forward, because it is identified in that plan.
Yeah.
And it's one of very many implementing action items.
Yeah.
Yeah, first one's the heritage procedures bylaw, downtown plan, heritage conservation area, it's on there.
So you want me to save it for an election promise? Okay.
All right, I got heritage shrubs I just removed. I don't know if I'm in contravention of a proposed bylaw, but anyway. Any other comments? Saying none, I'll move on to the finance committee. Most of us were there at that finance committee. We discussed our updates on our quarterly reports, Q2, Q3, I believe, Q2, and pretty much on par for what we needed. discuss the large-scale infrastructure savings plans and how we can approach that as we work forward with putting money aside in our coffers for future purchases. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I will then move on to letters. We've got a letter regarding opposition to a UBCM resolution. Anyone want to make comment on that? Are you okay letting it play? Councilor Palmer?
I think we've all received a flood of identically worded, whenever I did read through it. I think they maybe convinced me to vote in support of the motion rather than by highlighting it it seems like it's a specialized group of people that, including letters from Alberta, that feel they should have a right to have exotic species. And I didn't find it compelling, so I think I'll probably be voting the other way at UBCM.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other comments from council? And City of Prince George sent us a laundry list here of 5 items. Again, UBCM. From my perspective, it's something that we can individually deal with at UBCM, but any comments from council? Seeing none, I'm going to go to Councilor Palmer.
Yeah, just the conservation officer advocacy, that is an issue of interest to us. So I think we've had that, but I think that needs to be ramped up. Just recently, I met with the new president of the Rod and Gun Club, and learned the need of conservation officer in our area to protect species from their lens. Actually, they see a problem with poaching that's not being enforced, so we've created a culture of that. So it's a much bigger issue than what I just sort of, I always thought, well, maybe it's about protecting our black bears, but it's a much bigger picture of why we need that conservation officer.
Councilor Stickler.
Yeah, I'll also just weigh in. I think we're seeing an increased demand for conservation officer services. I'd like to, I'll definitely be in support of that, especially having heard recently about the impacts that squatters are having on some of our crown land, especially going down West Side Road towards the Jordan Creek area.
Yeah.
And then also, seeing here in the letter from Prince George, the increased core provincial funding for public libraries. So, there's a lot of things that are being resonated throughout the communities, and just kind of like that coherent advocacy. I'm in support of. So.
Okay, good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll move on. Questions from the press. Mr. Lindquist, any questions? All right, Ms. Delasol, do we have any questions online?
We have no questions from the press, Your Worship.
All right, thank you. Okay, Council, I'd like to go on camera pursuant to sections 90.1 A and K of the Community Charter. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councilor Lucia, Councilor Stickler, all in favor? Motion's carried. We'll take a few minute break and then be back in camera. Thank you.
Good.